In the heart of a dense, ancient forest where shadows seemed to linger even in the daylight, there existed a tale whispered among the villagers, a tale that sent shivers down the spine of anyone who dared to listen. It was the legend of the Skull Walker. They said he was not quite human, but a towering figure cloaked in darkness, his presence marked only by the faint rustling of leaves and the crunch of bones beneath his feet. The Skull Walker, as he was known, lived in a hidden lair deep within the woods, a place where the trees bent and twisted as if in agony, forming a canopy so thick that sunlight rarely pierced through. No one knew where he came from or why he wandered the forest paths at night. Some claimed he was a vengeful spirit, seeking retribution for a past injustice. Others whispered that he was a cursed soul, condemned to roam the earth until the end of days. But all agreed on one thing: he was to be feared. One moonless night, a young hunter named Kyle ventured into the woods, driven by tales of riches hidden in the heart of the forest. Armed with a flickering lantern and a heart full of bravado, he treaded cautiously among the gnarled roots and twisted branches. The air grew colder, and the silence was suffocating. Kyle was a man of strength and resolve, known for his courage and determination. He had heard the stories of the Skull Walker, but dismissed them as mere folklore. His pride and ambition drove him forward, deep into the forest, in search of the elusive treasures that many claimed to have seen, but none had ever retrieved. As Kyle pressed deeper into the darkness, he saw a flicker of movement, a silhouette against the inky blackness. Fear gripped his heart as he beheld the figure of the Skull Walker, towering like a specter among the trees. His form was obscured, draped in a cloak of shadows that seemed to swirl and writhe with a life of their own. The Skull Walker turned, his eyes glowing faintly in the dim light of Kyle's lantern. Without a word, he began to walk, each step resonating with the chilling sound of bones crunching beneath his feet. Kyle, frozen in terror, watched as the figure moved effortlessly through the undergrowth, disappearing into the depths of the forest. Unable to resist the lure of the unknown, Kyle followed, his footsteps echoing in the oppressive silence. Branches clawed at his skin, and unseen eyes seemed to watch from the darkness. He stumbled upon a clearing bathed in moonlight, where the Skull Walker stood before a mound of skulls, remnants of his victims, arranged in a haunting display. The air grew thick with dread as Kale realized the truth. He had stumbled upon the lair of the Skull Walker. Unable to tear his gaze away, he watched in horror as the figure bent down, his skeletal hand caressing the surface of a skull. The eerie quiet was broken by a whispered incantation, ancient words that sent a chill down Kale's spine. Suddenly, the forest seemed to come alive with a cacophony of whispers and murmurs, as if the very trees were bearing witness to an unholy ritual. Shadows danced upon the forest floor, twisting and contorting into grotesque shapes. Kale's breath caught in his throat as he realized he had trespassed upon something beyond his understanding, something darker than he could have ever imagined, with Kale's in a gaze that pierced through to his very soul. In that moment, Kale knew he had ventured too far, seen too much. With a blood-curdling scream, he turned and fled, crashing through the underbrush in a desperate bid for escape. Behind him, the forest seemed to close in, the trees twisting and warping as if to trap him within their grasp. The sound of bones echoed in his ears, a grim reminder of the fate that awaited those who dared to cross paths with the Skull Walker. He ran until his legs could carry him no further, his mind haunted by visions of darkness and despair. From that night on, Kyle never spoke of what he had seen. Some say he lost his mind in the depths of the forest, forever haunted by the memory of the Skull Walker and the chilling sound of bones crunching beneath his feet. Others believe he met a fate worse than death, claimed by the darkness that lurked within the heart of the woods. The villagers noticed the change in Kyle. He became a shadow of his former self, his once bright eyes now dull and haunted. He would sit by the fire at night, staring into the flames, his hands trembling as he clutched a worn-out charm, an amulet said to ward off evil spirits. But no charm could protect him from the horrors he had witnessed. Word of Kale's encounter spread through the village, and fear took root in the hearts of its inhabitants. The forest, once a source of livelihood and adventure, became a place of dread. The villagers avoided it, especially at night, and tales of missing persons grew more frequent. Old man Gregor, the village elder, spoke of the Skull Walker with a solemnity that commanded attention. He told of ancient times when dark rituals were performed in the heart of the forest, summoning entities from beyond the veil of reality. The Skull Walker, he believed, was the result of such a ritual, a guardian of the dark, feeding on the souls of those who dared to enter his domain. As the village descended into fear, a small group of brave souls decided to confront the darkness. Led by Father Matthias, the village priest, they prepared to venture into the forest and put an end to the terror that had plagued their lives. Armed with holy symbols, torches, and weapons blessed by the church, they steeled themselves for the journey. Father Matthias was a man of great faith and resolve. He believed that the Skull Walker was a manifestation of evil that could be vanquished through the power of light and prayer. With a heavy heart, he led the group into the forest, each step a testament to their courage and desperation. The forest seemed to grow darker and more oppressive as they ventured deeper. The trees loomed like ancient sentinels, their branches twisting in unnatural ways. The air grew thick with the scent of decay, and the sound of bones crunching beneath their feet echoed ominously. As they reached the clearing, the group saw the Skull Walker standing before his mound of skulls, his presence a void of darkness. Father Matthias stepped forward, holding up a crucifix, his voice steady and firm.
"Creature of darkness, we command you to leave this place. In the name of all that is holy, we banish you from this world."
The Skull Walker turned, his eyes glowing with an unholy light. A chilling laugh echoed through the clearing, sending shivers down the spines of the villagers. With a wave of his hand, shadows erupted from the ground, twisting and writhing like serpents. The group fought valiantly, their torches and holy symbols flickering in the darkness. Father Matthias chanted prayers, his voice a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. But the Skull Walker's power was overwhelming. One by one, the villagers fell, consumed by the shadows. Father Matthias, weakened but undeterred, faced the Skull Walker with unwavering resolve. He raised his crucifix high, the light from its center growing brighter and brighter until it was blinding. With a final, desperate prayer, he thrust the crucifix towards the Skull Walker. There was a blinding flash of light, and the clearing was engulfed in an explosion of energy. When the light faded, the Skull Walker was gone, and the mound of skulls lay scattered on the ground. Father Matthias survived, but the toll of the battle was evident. His hair had turned white, and his eyes held the same haunted look that had plagued Kale. He returned to the village, the sole survivor of the confrontation. The villagers hailed him as a hero, and the forest slowly began to reclaim its place in their lives. But the memory of the Skull Walker lingered, a dark shadow on the edge of their thoughts. Father Matthias spent the rest of his days in the village, a guardian against the darkness, his faith unshaken but his spirit forever marked by the encounter. Years passed, and the tale of the Skull Walker became a legend, a cautionary story told to children to keep them from wandering too far into the woods. The forest, once a place of fear, became a symbol of resilience and bravery. The villagers rebuilt their lives, always mindful of the darkness that lurked just beyond the trees. But on moonless nights, when the wind whispered through the forest, the villagers would gather around their fires and tell the story of the Skull Walker, a reminder that some shadows are too deep to fully banish, and some legends are too dark to forget. For in the depths of the ancient forest where darkness reigns supreme, the Skull Walker waits, his presence marked only by the faint rustling of leaves and the chilling sound of bones beneath his feet. Those who dare to venture into his domain know that they may never return.